We're getting pumped up on a Friday. We got women's basketball tonight in a Where is the Competition Tour game. Ain't sweating that at all. And then tomorrow, big basketball game, number 1 versus number 4. Adam Giardino, UConn Sports Network. He does sideline reporting for us for the football team. He fills in everywhere he can on hoops. He's also the color analyst for UConn hockey. Adam, how's it going, man?
It's good. It's good. And tonight, you caught me before I hop in a car and head to Cambridge. I've got Harvard against St. Lawrence men's hockey tonight, and then I got Harvard-Clarkson men's hockey tomorrow night. So
telling the boys,
getting some hockey in, even when UConn men's hockey is not playing.
All right, I want to get to the hockey, but I did tell the boys, who knows where Adam's at this weekend? Who knows where he's going to be? But I know you're going to have one eye on the number 1 versus number 4 matchup. You care about this game as much as most people. But before we get to the UConn stuff, what did you think of Caitlin Clark's accomplishment? She is now the leader, and we're going to just stack up the points as being the leading scorer in Division I basketball history for the women's side.
Yeah, it's awesome. It really is. And she's incredibly talented. She also leads the nation in assists. So I think that deserves to be recognized as well. There is an element of selfishness to her game in some ways, but
I agree.
She's shooting almost 50% from the field. I mean, she's unbelievable. And it's crazy because, just 8 days ago, one of her teammates dropped 47 in a game.
Yep.
So Iowa's got a little bit of depth there, but if you've got a player as talented as Caitlin Clark, just let her go. And, I was a student at UConn and got to call a lot of games when Maya Moore was on the court. She had Tina Charles that she had to feed as well. And, 4 years of Maya Moore and only Maya Moore, and we might be talking about Caitlin Clark trying to track down that record for all-time points. But UConn just never needed to have a player do all of that, right? I mean, Paige Beckers 4 years ago, 4 years ago at this point, geez, time flies, where her freshman year she needed to go get 20-plus a game and set the freshman scoring record. And that was just a unique circumstance of a roster. And so Caitlin Clark, she had the training wheels off from day one. She scored 27 a game as a freshman and now up to 32 a game as a senior. And I do feel bad for Caitlin Clark in one way, because if they do not win the national championship, that the game, I don't foresee Iowa losing a game in which Caitlin Clark scores 35 points in the NCAA tournament on 60% shooting. It's probably going to be an off night. And so it's a lot of responsibility for her to bear. They're an incredible team. But the way that program is comprised, that if they fall short of a national title, it's going to be a pretty tough pill for Clark to probably swallow, just given that, the expectations on her shoulder.
National title champs last year for UConn men's basketball, and we had an awesome parade downtown Hartford. It was so much fun. There were so many people. The only incident was Blumenthal broke his leg because he slipped on the curb or something and backed up somehow, some way. Other than that, it was pretty much incident-free. Now, obviously, of what happened at the Super Bowl parade here at the beginning of this week, but also I'll throw in the Denver Nuggets had a shooting during their parade, and also the Texas Rangers had shootings in the vicinity when they were celebrating their World Series championship. And we asked everybody this yesterday. I'll ask you today, get this tough question out of the way. If we win a national title in either men's or women's basketball, are we going to have a parade again?
I say yes. It's an interesting question, and I think that with, however many, I think last year for the men it was 40,000 people showed up in Hartford, and, numbers vary across the country, but I think that when the population of guns in the United States exceeds the population of people, that when you get a crowd of 100,000, in excess of that, close to 1 million in some of these parades, that it's just a numbers game that kind of stuff is going to happen. So and that's not to absolve the fact that it happened, right, but maybe reflecting on what ways you can have these really powerful and positive community building moments in which you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And so, it's not, maybe it sounds numb, but it's, that makes sense that when that many people are gathered in a place and, it just doesn't take much to have a situation arise when there are likely that many guns in a particular area just based on the number of people that are there.
Unfortunate, man. Talking to Adam Giardino, I'm not saying you're wrong or right, and I've been saying that to everybody. Yeah. It's just it's a crappy conversation to have that we even have to have it, and I know we're going to have it. I know we're going to have it again April 9th because hopefully we are talking about a national championship parade. UConn #1 in the nation. They've won 13 straight. This is a long stretch, especially in this day and age when so many top 10 teams have been beaten by unranked opponents. This is a long stretch at #1 for the UConn Huskies. They're taking on Marquette. What excites you the most about this matchup? Shaka Smart, Hurley? Is it Kolek, Newton? Is it just the two programs in the Big East? What are you really excited about to find out what happens tomorrow at the XL?
Yeah, I hope that it's you kind of mark games on the calendar, and for aesthetic reasons, you just hope that teams hang on. And it feels like Marquette is sort of dancing through raindrops to this point to be a top 5 team that. They're very good, and for them to wind up in the Final Four, I don't think you'd be shocked. You have a couple of things go your way, and you would beat a couple of good teams, and you're in the Final Four. So I think Marquette is every bit the top 15 team, and will be should be a top 4 seed conversation, and all of that. I think that 4th in the country might be a little bit of fool's gold, and it might be a little of what you're talking about, where other teams that are not named UConn and Purdue have dropped games, and Marquette just over the last couple of weeks has avoided that fate. So I don't know if it holds the same cachet as the UConn-Kansas game, but I think you should be thrilled that it's a 1-4 game in the state of Connecticut. It's awesome. And so I do think that UConn will be remembering back to the Big East Championship last year. That was the one that was the last loss before winning it all. And so I think for the Huskies, for those who are problematically online, they know that Marquette fans love to say that they knocked off the national champs and they were the last team to do so before UConn won it all. And so I think that UConn fans would love any modicum of revenge tomorrow when the eyes of the nation are on the best game on the schedule.
Game tonight at Gamble. It's senior night for UConn women's basketball as they take on Georgetown, and we have 4 that are going to be honored, but learning from Bob Joyce yesterday as he came back from the press conferences at Stores, Aubrey most likely could come back, might come back, probably will come back. Paige, question marks. We don't really know for sure. Nika, however, going to go overseas and potentially play professional basketball after this season. Aaliyah Edwards, she's Canadian. Looks like she is going to be a WNBA selection as well. Both of those two players, it's difficult for them to receive NIL because they are on student visas, unlike the American student athlete here in the NCAA. But talk on Nika and Aaliyah and just kind of maybe the differences in their game and the style in their game that they've brought to this program that's unique.
Yeah, there's no one that would have guessed Nika Mule stepping foot on campus would have had to fill the role that she's had to fill, and has allowed Paige Beckers to step off the ball, become what Paige likes to describe as she's a forward now. And Nika gets to be that pass-first point guard. And anytime you get 10, 12 points in a game from Nika on efficient shooting, that's a huge bonus. And I don't know if anyone, Gino Auriemma included, would have said that Nika Buell would have led the nation in assists as she did last year. And it's a real testament to everything that UConn fans saw in Nika when she became a fan favorite as this little token of fiery defensive effort off the bench. And what that turned into was, when given starters minutes, she's able to really do that for 30-plus minutes a night. And so that's, as far as that goes, hard to think back to another player who was as self-made as Nika Mule in UConn women's basketball. Bob Joyce would certainly be the encyclopedia on that.
I like that, though. I like that a lot. Self-made, for sure.
I mean, you think back to Kelly Ferris, and she ended up getting drafted in the WNBA draft. And I think she was somebody that, in different ways, I think she was the benefit of being on championship teams. So a lot of eyeballs were on her, but just the expectations coming in for Nika Mule were hardly anything. And she just blew all of that away and is one of the most important players on this team if UConn's going to make a run to the Final Four. And emotionally so, when they fell short and lost and were upset in the NCAA tournament last year. I mean, she was the one that spoke out and wore the emotions on her sleeve for the entire team. So it's so important to have a leader like that. And for Aaliyah Edwards, I mean, just, being on the international stage at such a young age for Team Canada and being able to grow through those experiences and just, like you said, she's a WNBA player, and I think that in the right situation that she could really blossom even more. Yeah. She's got a lot of interesting parts of her skill set. Her outside shot is enticing. It's not there yet, but there are weeks where she'll go with seemingly not being able to make a shot, and then all of a sudden she can pull up a couple of feet inside the arc, and opponents, you do that a couple possessions into the game, and your opponent knows it's going to be a long night. So the athleticism, all of that for Aaliyah Edwards, assuming you're correct that this is the final acknowledgement of these seniors, that's super. It's going to be a special night. There's no doubt about it with all that happening post-game.
7:00 is the start of that game. That is tonight, like Adam just said. Then 3:00 is the start of number 1 versus number 4 tomorrow for the men's game. Let's talk some hockey, and I want to talk some winning hockey. So that means let's talk women's hockey because this men's team is frustrating as all get out. I can't take it anymore. But the women are kicking butt. They're at Merrimack tonight. They'll be taking on Vermont on the road as well. And they're cruising for a playoff bid if even they don't win the Hockey East. Give me some more on this team.
Yeah, they're on the cusp. And what for being right positioned for pairwise. But I think right now, UConn, the women's hockey team, they are knocking on the door. I think they've basically, they have assured themselves a home game as in the Hockey quarterfinals. They can't finish any lower than fifth at the moment. So they're just a couple of dominoes away from getting locked into a home game for the quarterfinals. But what you're saying is at this point, they really can't afford any bad results. And they had a great result last Friday against Northeastern, fell behind 2-0 to the Northeastern Huskies. And UConn's in the driver's seat, just as they did the Friday before at Providence, where UConn was on the road against a decent Providence team. They were on the road this past Friday against an excellent Northeastern team, fell behind, and then Ashley Allard, the freshman, scored. Ainsley Svedek scored halfway through the third, forced overtime, got through the overtime, lost in a shootout. But what that means is it puts a tie to your ledger instead of an overtime loss. So you lose in the shootout, but it's all well. And so UConn right now, they have gone unblemished in their last 20 Hockey East games. They started 0-3, and now UConn is 16-0-4 in their last 20. So it really will be a shame, without putting it out there, if UConn does not get the automatic bid and it goes down to some mathematician in a closet figuring out who gets to be in the NCAA tournament, because especially from a defensive perspective, UConn, this women's team, it deserves every bit to be in the NCAA tournament.
It would be fascinating if the Hockey East did have some mathematician locked in a closet. And hey, what do you think? It's your turn to do something. Well, I haven't been fed in 2 months. Shut up, mathematician. Get back in your closet. Figure out the numbers. All right, what are the numbers for this men's team? They've got another opportunity. Boston 3. Yeah. Kurt says hurry it up already. He's sick of this team. He said go to break. All right, give me something. They're not playing this week. I don't know, man. It's been disappointing weekends, like 4 weekends in a row with men's hockey at UConn.
Yeah, get 6 points against BU next weekend and turn some things around. How about some warm sports? Baseball starts.
Okay, there we go.
The Hook C, baby.
Hook C.
How's that?
Well, they're taking on Louisville right now as we speak. Louisville, one of the best teams. And what's your expectations for that squad, by the way? Not Louisville, of UConn baseball, as they're embarking on their Florida trip right now.
Man, if Ian Cook, last year's preseason Big East Pitcher of the Year, just never got any traction, and not to reveal too much, but it was just a frustrating season for him, for the coaching staff wanting all of what they wanted and just not having it come to fruition. So for Ian Cook, that's huge if he can be that guy. And everyone wants him to be that guy. And hey, look, 6 innings, no runs, 5 strikeouts. He exited with a 1-0 lead. UConn's bullpen has given up 3 runs right now. So, yeah, as we record this, 3-1 Louisville in the 7th. But, hey, Ian Cook, 77 pitches, 6 shutout innings. Give me that every single time. That is a huge, huge bit of news for UConn. If they got him rolling, that's all of a sudden back to being a top 25 team again.
And the Cardinals are no slouches either. Louisville is usually a top 25 team in NCAA baseball. Adam Giardino go off to the Harvard hockey game this weekend. Hope you have a bunch of fun. Go UConn. It's going to be a big day Saturday. But thanks for joining us today and breaking some of this down.
Always. My tablet always has a UConn live stats thing rolling, even when I'm calling games at Harvard. Don't tell anybody.
I won't. Yeah. Hopefully they're not listening. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we got to go to break real quick. Kurt says I've totally screwed everything up, so I'm just go to break, Kurt. We'll be right back.
91 North.